Welcome to How We Grow, an essential playbook to grow and scale your vacation rental business with advice and insights from the best in the biz, with your host, Lynell Gordon. Welcome to the Vacation Rental Show, How We Grow. I'm Lynell Gordon, your host, and today I'm really excited. On this episode, we are thrilled to have Julie George. Now, Julie is a globally recognized expert in the short-term rental space. She's also the author of the best-selling book. If you're on video, you can see right behind her. It's Billion Dollar Host. In just 3 years, Julie scaled a property portfolio to over 130 properties, generating more than $8 million in booking income just through Airbnb. Now, she is a much sought-after mentor, speaker, and consultant, and she helps entrepreneurs to build and scale their own successful short-term rental business. Now, today, Julie is going to share her insight on the processes of scaling a business to sell, drawing from her extensive experience in the short-term rental space. Welcome, Julie.
Lynell, thank you for having me on. It's really exciting to be part of this successful podcast. Congratulations on the series.
Thank you. We have a really good time here. And I think it's mostly because the people that come on are really smart like you. Let me ask you about the books. You've got 2 books over your shoulders. I only know about one. So tell me about these books.
Million Dollar Host is the book that I wrote in 2018. It's been bestseller many times around the world, which is really exciting. It tells my story.
When did you write that?
2018.
You look exactly like that. Look at that, guys. She's not, if you're on video, no change whatsoever. That is crazy.
Gosh.
That's like 6 years ago.
Yeah, I know it's scary, isn't it? But if you look really close, there's some grays in there.
Probably from the book. No, just kidding.
Yeah, it is. This will tell you my personal story of, growing up in the outback of Australia feeding crocodiles. That was my first ever job, feeding crocodiles. My dad was almost considered the original Crocodile Dundee, for those of you who have ever watched that movie. Tells you my personal story of how the hell did I get into short-term rentals. Then it gives you right at the end a step-by-step guide on what you can do to replicate the success that I've seen. So that's book number 1. Book number 2, 3, and 4, I've got 2 other books that are sitting there, are all part of the Hospitable Host series. And this is inspiring, memorable stories from Airbnb hosts around the world to educate and motivate. So in here, there's 40 chapters from hosts right around the world, telling you stories of guest experiences, looking after guests. One lady that met her husband as a guest, she was a host. How's that? There's a 5-star review if I ever heard it. But this tells, my chapter in here talks about how I sold my business. So it goes into detail on the sale process. And then books 2 and 3 of this series here talk about what I'm doing now with educating, traveling the world, getting to go into Brian Chesky's office in San Francisco, all the fun stuff of being able to now leverage my success story to help others in the industry. So they're the books if anyone wants to read on Amazon. Or I was saying before, Lynell, I'd love to give a free one of these away to any of your listeners, an ebook, if anybody wants to get in touch. So if anyone's listening now, wants a copy, I'll give you one.
That is awesome. I love that. Can you walk us through the key steps that you took to scale your short-term rental business to the point that it became a very attractive investment opportunity for potential buyers?
Yeah, absolutely. So my story begins all the way back in 2016. And much like the listeners today, I started just with my own property that became vacant after a long-term tenant decided to move out. It was already furnished. I was working as a realtor at the time. And I thought, I wonder what all this fuss is about with the short-term rental industry. Like, what is this Airbnb gig going on? So I decided to pop the linen in, turn the Wi-Fi on, and take some professional photos. Within hours, I had my first booking. Within days, my first guest. And I just fell in love with the whole process, the reciprocal reviews, or the money helped.
For sure.
The thing that really appealed was the fact that I could stay in my own property or put my mother-in-law in my own property. And we could actually utilize an investment property that I never had been able to do that before. So I think that's when the light bulb moment clicked for me. And I thought, as a realtor, I was dealing day to day with property investors who were struggling in a down market. They were selling for a loss. They were dealing with long-term tenants. And I thought, if it can work for me, it can work for others. So the idea of the professional property management business came to mind. And I guess I found a structure that really resonated with not only property owners, but also the people that I was bringing on in my team to work. And then, of course, the guests benefited as well from this structure. And we got to 130 properties within 3 years. At that stage, I had written a book because people kept saying to me, Julie, what are you doing? Like, how did you get to 130 and what's your secret? I thought, rather than keep repeating, I'm going to write it down. But I also had a son, a teenage son, who really didn't know what mum did. So I thought, what better legacy to do than to write a book? Wrote the book, and at that stage, I, in 2019, got a knock on the door from a bunch of people wanting to buy my business. I decided to sell, and lucky I did, because 2 months later, COVID shut the world down. So it was impeccable timing. But here I am today, now passing on the knowledge and hopefully inspiring and motivating others to follow in my steps of success.
So, what are the most important metrics or like KPIs that potential buyers are looking for when they consider a short term rental business for acquisition?
The easier, the better. The less complicated, the better. I know there's a lot of pressure on us to automate our businesses these days, and I'm going to probably surprise a lot of people by saying automate, don't complicate. I, with 130 properties, was 100% Airbnb. I wasn't on other channels. I did dabble with a few other OTAs and booking channels, but I just found that if I could keep my business really simple, it was going to be very attractive, and it certainly was very attractive to a potential buyer coming in saying, we want your property portfolio, but we also want your Airbnb profile. So they purchased the whole lot in one go, took it over, and simply to take on my business, they just had to log in every time with my date of birth. So they should send me a birthday card every year. But it was just a simple process. So keeping it simple, keeping it profitable. Now, it's really tempting, and I certainly did for the first couple of years, running all my personal expenses through the business. When it comes to selling, you can't do that. You've really got to show a decent profit on those properties. So, simplicity, profit, but also making sure that it's just going to be an easy process, that the paperwork, the SOPs are in place. So, buyers are looking for solid contracts that are going to be easily transferable. They're looking for good relationships that you've got with the owners that are going to be easily transferable. And you've also got to really make sure that you've got some good properties. Don't just take anything into your portfolio, which is tempting. Making sure that you've got the really good, solid properties that are going to turn that profit.
So, we talk about simple. Let me ask you this. How do you ensure that your business is simple, efficient, and scalable while continuing to grow and keeping your overhead cost in check? How are you keeping that overhead in check in that way?
Yeah, really good point. Once again, it is really complicated for a lot of property managers. That I think what we've got to look at is the organizational structure. And right from the beginning, I realized that this industry and the business, it's like a roller coaster ride. One minute you're earning lots of money in your prime season, the next minute you've got nothing for months coming in. And for me, employing a team and having employees on a wage was not something that I could take on, because I wasn't willing to take on the risk of not being able to pay them. Now, with the likes of COVID and airline strikes or whatever it might be, you just never know what's around the corner. So I was a little concerned about making sure that I had a business structure that really took away the risk, made sure that we could scale at the same time. So, what I did, my secret sauce, as we would call it, would be a co host model. The first person that I employed, and I'll tell you the story of how it came about, but the first person that I brought on was a co host that was able to take away 10 properties from my portfolio and look after them wholly and solely guest facing. So they were going to look after all the guest communication. They were going to meet and greet the guests. This is before smart locks came in. But they also were going to do the cleaning, the laundry, and then reset the home as if it was their own baby. So they were very familiar if there were any damages there. They were going to report them, but that was their responsibility. Now, what I did was I was able to pay that person a percentage, a cleaning fee plus a percentage. Now, I was charging my homeowners 25%, but I was paying out 6% to my co hosts. So 6% plus the cleaning fee, and that was their reward. The way that I promoted this structure was a business in a box. So I would be looking for somebody to partner with me as a co host and give them an opportunity to grow their own business underneath my umbrella. I want to tell you how this came about, though. I was doing everything myself. And much like many of your listeners who are probably cleaning and making beds right now listening to this podcast, I remember making 17 beds in one day and coming home to my husband and going, whose stupid idea was short term rentals? Like, give me a break. I had two options. I either needed to quit and go off and get a job, or I needed to find some help. And coincidentally, the next day I sat down and had a coffee with my friend he's 70 years old. His name is Glenn. And Glenn and I used to work in the phone book industry. We were selling advertising in phone books. Yes, folks, that was before Google. But we sat down and he said, look, I've just retired from I've been forced to retire from this job, but I don't want to retire. I want to keep working. I want to keep earning an income. And I said, Glenn, do you have a smartphone, a mop, a bucket, a vacuum cleaner, and a car? He said, yes. And I said, here's 10 properties. Go. Off you go. Look after them, because I knew I really had to look at what did I want to do, and I wanted to scale my business. I couldn't scale it while I was making 17 beds in one day. I needed him to go and make those beds while I went and found new properties, new owners, and brought more listings onto that business.
So you basically did all the marketing for it and you did the owner relations and you allowed someone else to handle that other part of the business.
Absolutely. But gee, that's hard to let go sometimes.
Oh,
And
I'm sure.
I think that's where a lot of people will struggle with the idea of and the concept of growing their business, scaling their business, is to actually trust and delegate in other people. But folks, I've got to tell you, there are people that can make a bed better than you.
I wrote down. That's what I wrote down. I wrote delegated. That's a real big part of growing a business. In your experience and talking about this delegation, what are some of the common mistakes that entrepreneurs make when trying to scale their short-term businesses to sell? Because you talk to a lot of them. You're also a consultant. So tell me, what can they do? What are those mistakes and how do they avoid them?
People complicate their businesses, and there's lots of shiny objects out there at the moment. Software, shiny objects. You probably don't need half of what you're using at the moment. So if you can really do an audit on your software, do an audit on your expenses to cut that down, because I think that's probably the biggest thing I see is that people feel the peer pressure to be on multi channels. So a lot of people are feeling like they need to be on every OTA. For me, I simply thought if I'm getting full occupancy using Airbnb, I don't need to be on those other channels. And there was a bit of peer pressure coming in from homeowners on that point. Now, let's talk about homeowners in a second as well and micromanaging. But those homeowners would think that they knew better. So they would come in and say, you need to be on booking.com, you need to be on Verbo, you need to be on all of these. And I said, but really, sitting at 99% occupancy or whatever. I said, look, we are full, but we're keeping it really simple with the structure. We're not going to get any more money from these other channels. Let's not complicate the business. So I would say, property managers, if you're listening in right now and you're thinking, maybe one day I would like to sell, get ready now, because you just never know when someone's going to knock on the door with a big fat check and say, we want to buy your business. But you also want to future proof your business. Unfortunately, if we got hit by a bus tomorrow, and let's keep our fingers crossed, that's not going to happen, but we want to make sure that we've got somebody else, that the business isn't reliant on us. And that's the other big common mistake that I see, is that people need to really delegate, set a team up, have systems and operating procedures in place so that the business can run fully independent of them. And that is an attractive prospect to a purchaser who can come in, take the playbook, take the keys to your kingdom, and give you that big fat check.
Let me tell you, that's also a very attractive feature for entrepreneurs who are running a business and running themselves ragged, doing so many things, and they are actually not delegating or making it, like you say, future proof and making the business not reliable on you. I told someone this past week, I said, I know you're going to find this hard to listen to, that you are replaceable. I said, and so am I. So we need to make sure that the processes are in place should something happen, that it's not dependent on either of us. And so I agree 100%, no matter what business you're in, guys, that goes across all industries.
How We Grow is proud to partner with Limbrook Group, the experts in vacation payment solutions. When you choose Limbrook, you not only get a payment software that directly integrates into your reservation system, but decades of experience, giving you the best team when it comes to integrated homeowner payments and chargeback mitigation. Connect with them online at limbrookgroup.com to learn more.
You've been an influential advocate in shaping the short-term rental landscape. How do you see the role of technology, especially since you're talking about simplify and everything, in transforming the way that short-term rental businesses operate? There's a lot of new stuff out there that is really shiny, and some of it is actually quite remarkable.
I agree. You look at some of this AI coming in and
Exactly.
yeah, I was just attending the Vacation Rental Managers Association conference in Phoenix. And of course, that exhibitor hall was full of brand new booths with brand new technology and smart locks and AI bots. And oh gosh, there's so much tech that's out there now. Very exciting, but also a little dazzling. And I guess that's where you really got to go. Is it worth it? Is there value? Is it going to improve my business? And I may sound a bit old school here, but I really worry about AI messaging going back and forth to a guest because I've experienced it as a guest where it just is wrong. It's wrong. It's either repeating itself. It's getting your name wrong. Like there's a whole bunch of things there that I think that it's great if the technology can add to your business, fantastic. But please, folks, be really wary. Do you need it? Is it going to really enhance your business? And it can be very costly as well. But of course, there's some brilliant technology that's out there. And I think it's very exciting. The future of the business. If I had started my business now instead of 2016, holy moly, it wouldn't just be 130 properties. I think we'd be talking 300, 400 properties because you'd be able to scale your business so much quicker. You'd be able to enhance your business a lot more.
Let me ask you this, because this is what I see. I want to know if you see the same thing. Yeah, AI has really transformed the short-term rental business this year. There's no question. But here's what I see happening. They're putting it into the property management systems themselves. The systems that you're using to manage your reservations and you're using to manage communications with your guests and owners, they're putting AI directly into it, which quite frankly, I think that's where it belongs. So you have one system really to rule them all. That's the way I love. What do you think about that? Do you think that it should be integrated?
I think so, but it's got to be right. And what worries me is, when it's making mistakes or it sounds too robotic or it doesn't come across as a genuine, authentic message. And I don't know. I still think that guests are turning to short-term rentals as opposed to a hotel because they want that personal experience. I still like meeting and greeting at times, which sounds archaic, but I like to put a face to a name. And if I think that there's just a robot at the end of the message, I don't know, it ruins it a little bit for me. Or perhaps it doesn't encourage me to leave a 5-star review as a guest. But I think there's a lot of software that now doubles up on each other. So that's the other thing that I would say that, look, the PMS is bringing in AI, great. And what I think we're missing is a property management system that does everything. Like it seems to be we've got 10 different softwares out there all trying to integrate with each other. Can somebody please pull it all together and put it in one system? That would be really cool.
That's been my life's work. I'll be quite frank. I don't know how much you know about my background, but that was my life's work. I felt like there should be one system and it should have everything that you need in it to really to run your business. But I have to tell you, the AI that's coming out now, the ones that I've seen, especially recently in the last 3 or 4 months, you have to train it. Number one, those types of things, guys, it doesn't happen immediately. You have to train it. It takes work. but it doesn't take brilliance to be able to do this. It doesn't. But the ones that are coming out now, you can't tell. You don't think it's a robot. You think it's a real person. As a matter of fact, I was fooled. I was looking at one person's work that they were doing during the interview. I was like, I cannot believe how many 5-star reviews you have. It's remarkable to me because you answer people within 12 hours to 24 hours later. Everyone is answered, and it's a good answer. And they just looked at me and they said, Lynell, and they have used a product called Zapier. And Zapier, I use Zapier. I use Zapier for the nonprofit that I work for and manage. And it's really phenomenal. But I didn't think about using it that way. But that really should be built into a property management system so you can't tell. What do you think? Where are we headed in the future with short-term rentals?
The future is bright, and we just made the joke about it. I'm based in Australia, so I'm a full day ahead of you,
Yeah.
Lynell. So I can say future is bright. I can't give you the lotto numbers, I'm sorry, but I do think that short-term rentals is really becoming its own beast. It used to be a specialty product off to the side in the accommodation realm. Now, I would say it's the first option for many travelers. I think it's going to become the standard choice. But on that, we need to see the standards lift, and we need to see some more regulation when it comes to standards in the short-term rental industry. At the moment, we don't know what we're going to get when we go to a property. We don't know what sort of linen we're getting. We don't know what sort of, like, we can look at the reviews. We can see what the host is reviewed, if they're a super host or not, that sort of thing. But there's no star rating on the properties like there is in hotels. And for me, I think that's the next thing that's going to happen. If I could look in my crystal ball, that we are going to see brands like the Marriott or Hilton coming into the short-term rental industry. And there already are quite a few brands like that in the United States, especially, that are going to set standards. I know what you're going to get when you walk into one of their properties in Orlando, you walk into one in Los Angeles, it's going to be exactly the same linen. It's going to be the same amenities. It's going to really stand out like you would expect in a hotel chain. So for me, I'm hoping that's the next case, and I'm really waiting to see who's going to lead the pack in our industry when it comes to setting the standards and putting a recognized brand out there. But I'd love to hear, what are your thoughts on that one?
For the future, I think reviews are incredibly important. I think people want to know that the pictures that they see are actually what is there. They're tired of being fooled. They understand that. And so I think people have begun to start groups that maintain integrity with quality. There are groups out there that do that, like the 100 Club and others that say we're only taking certain people and we know that's going to be real. And there are a lot of other really cool things that are coming in to the market that will show that what you see is what you get. But like you say, 5 stars, those reviews are golden. I want a secret from you though. And there's a lot more in the future. We could talk tons of things that I think that are going to come along in 2025. I really do. But I want a secret from you, okay? Because I want to know, this is a burning question in my heart. What is the secret to doing well on Airbnb?
It's reviews, right? You've got to get those 5-star reviews. And sometimes you might even need to ask your guest for a 5-star review. It's about educating the guests. And what I've seen just recently, which is really exciting, is putting up a chart in your property to show guests what star ratings actually mean to you and how a 4-star review can absolutely wipe us out of the business. So I think educating, looking for those 5-star reviews, but also delighting those guests with something unexpected. Now, here's the thing. We have got so much competition in the space at the moment. How do you, as a professional property manager, stand out from the competition? Look, I would say to you at the moment, now what you've got to do is really up your game. You've got to do something that's really special. A professional property manager, she's based in Pennsylvania. She just recently gave me her tip, and I'm going to pass it on to your listeners.
Yes.
But it was to actually have a lockbox in the property that would only open on a timer on the very last day of the guest's stay. Sounds random, right? There was a box, it's got a timer on it, came with a message, and it said, please look in this box on the very last day of your stay. It opened up and there was a present in there to say, thank you for your stay, she would put a Polaroid camera in there and she would then hope that they would take photos, leave a couple of photos behind. But it was actually just a little thank you present. And it wasn't in the listing, it wasn't in the description or the photos. So it was unexpected because I think the one thing that we know these days, we know everything about the properties before we actually get there. We're Googling those properties, we're looking at the reviews. We feel like we already know that property pretty well, checking out the videos on Instagram. But if you've got something that can delight unexpectedly for that guest, that's cool. And that I think would be the secret. Now, if I'm saying to you, how do you succeed on Airbnb? Do something that stands you out from the competition, but something unexpected.
I'll tell you, I have a little secret too. So every year for a property that I rent, every year we create a very special house themed present, and they get that on the first day when they check in. And they get a little card from me saying, I'm so happy that you decided to choose our house to stay in. And we do that for more than one house. That's a service that can be offered from property managers, and some do, but it depends on the type of theme that you have in your house. So for my house, I have a gourmet kitchen. And so not only do I give them like this beautiful gift when they get there, sometimes it's a basket with all different kinds of things in it. Other times it's something they can actually use during their vacation. This year we did something else. We actually added an espresso machine with pods for every day. They don't have to go buy coffee. When they go to my house, they have coffee at my house. And it's just little things like that. And there are different types of coffee. So they have an espresso, they have a cappuccino, and they have a whatever. And it's just one of those machines that I think it's a Breville. You can just stick it in and it comes out. So I think that property managers, one of the things they're doing too, Julie, is they are creating classes of, and they've done this for years, but they're doing a better job of it. They're creating classes of their homes that create, these homes have this amenities. When people stay in my house, they know what kind of sheets are there. We post it because listen, when I go to stay in Weston, I want that Weston bed.
Yes.
So I hear what you're saying and I agree 100%. And I love the fact that the property manager that I use, which just happens to be my family, they care enough that they create those classes and the homeowner pays for it, not the guest. And it's really cool. And I don't mind paying for it because I can tell you my full season next year is already booked.
It's so important to really give that personal touch, isn't it? And I think a personalized note with a gift basket, woohoo! None of us expect anything for free these days. So if we get something a little bit extra like that, even a chocolate on the pillow, don't do that because it'll probably melt and cause a mess. But I think it's so special, and that's what memories are made of, and that's what 5 stars are written on. So get to know your guests, get to find out what that are they coming in for a birthday celebration? Are they coming in for an anniversary? Can you offer something a little bit more to that person? One thing I used to do with my co-hosts, so Glenn, who took the 10 properties, I would say to him, you can go above and beyond if you want. If you feel like you want to get, because his KPIs were based on 5 star reviews. So he knew that he had to get 5 star reviews in order to grow his portfolio and for me to allocate more properties to him. To get 5 star reviews, he would get to know his guests who was coming in. But if there were children coming in, leave a colouring book and pencils for them to say, this is your gift, you can take it home at the end of your stay. So really just, I think that's very exciting. And I want to come and stay in one of your properties if that's the case.
We do stuffies on the kid. I have a kid's room that has 7 bunk beds in a room. It's really cute. And I do stuffies. And I thought the first year I put stuffies in there, and they're big stuffies, I thought they'll take them home. Everyone will take them home. And that's great. And I have a whole bunch of them that I can replace it with. Not one of them took them. They played with them and they didn't take them. I'm like, how do you clean these every time? You got to get that clean. But I'll tell you one more thing that I think might be a good idea. And you tell me what you think. This year, what I'm doing is I'm creating a QR code and I'm putting it in a picture frame. And I don't know yet where I'm putting it in my house, but I'm going to say, if you had a good time at my house, would you please leave me a 5 star review? And here's my QR code. If you hated it, would you please call the property manager before you do your review? And I think I'm going to literally do a QR code, and I'll probably do a video that says that at the same time. Just make it easy for them to go click. Just my thought.
Make it easy, educate, and don't be afraid to ask. We used to send a message the day of checkout and say, We hope you enjoyed your stay. We feel that you were a 5-star guest and we're going to review you as such. We hope that you felt that it was a 5-star stay. It's really important to us to get those 5-star reviews. Like we were like, push, push, push. It worked because of you ask and you let them know how important it is. It's cool. And then, of course, follow up with the guests after they've left as well, because what you want to do is you want to retarget those good guests to come and stay again and possibly come and stay with a direct booking next time. If they're coming through a channel the first time, so Airbnb, first time they're booking, they should second time be coming direct to you so that you earn a little bit more money and you get rid of the booking fees.
That's excellent advice. Direct bookings are always amazing. Let me ask you this, looking back over your shoulder, looking back, what key lessons have you learned? What things would you do differently? And then I want you to tell me about the book so that people can know what you wrote about.
Doing things differently. Okay, a couple of things, and I mentioned it earlier in our conversation. Micromanaging homeowners and those homeowners that micromanage us as property managers. We are the experts, and I want to remind everybody you are the experts. You are being paid for a service because you offer a valuable service to your community. Do not be micromanaged by a homeowner who thinks they know better than you. But you've got to set the boundaries right from the start. Now, that's something that I didn't do initially. I did a verbal handshake. Thank you very much. I'm going to look after your property like it's my own. Told them all the right things. Walked away. I learnt the lesson by having a homeowner come in and say, why isn't my pool fence clean? Why isn't my garden attended to? The shrubs, why haven't they been cut down? Hello, I assumed that I was managing your property on the inside of the property. That's on me though. I didn't put that in black and white and I didn't set the boundaries and I didn't set the expectations with the homeowner right from the beginning. So that's something I would do differently. And it certainly was a lesson that I learnt probably 6 months into my business that I needed to get in black and white a really good property owners agreement. I needed to put everything into a contract and then take those homeowners through that I would only be available 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. It was only for emergencies to call me after those hours. But you've got to set those expectations. You've got to be confident with the homeowners that you are the expert, that you know what you're doing when you're setting pricing and looking after the calendar of the property. So that's probably my biggest lesson that I look back apart from, and I'm going to give you one more. My biggest regret in business, and this is really looking over my shoulder, like holy moly, my biggest regret was not to use dynamic pricing. And I learnt my lesson very well when I sold my business. I then still had a couple of properties that I then engaged Price Labs, and yes, I'm giving them a shout out. Price Labs, I realized by not guessing my prices, I was earning with the expert advice 12% on average more than what I was when I thought I knew better than the experts. And when I look back at $8 million in earnings, 12% on $8 million is $1 million that I lost by not using dynamic pricing. So don't do that.
Absolutely. I think dynamic pricing is very important and managing your revenue and doing revenue management that way. Let me ask you this. I need to know, I have this burning desire to know your favorite guest story.
All right, it's got to be the one that bought an extra person in the part. They made a booking, but there was an extra person in the party because they had a baby in my property. This woman gave birth. Like, how cool is that? It wasn't something that I was upset about either, but we did have to charge a bit more of a cleaning fee now. Sorry, that's terrible, isn't it?
Probably true. For
Actually,
real.
I know we had to throw out the mop and bucket because it was anyway. She came in from a remote area in Australia West. We've got such a big country. Australia is the same land size as the United States, so mostly we live on the coastal regions of Australia. So where I was, we had a major hospital, and she flew in from a remote farm. She had to come in to be close to give birth at the hospital. She didn't make it. She went into labor and unfortunately or fortunately, had a little baby boy born in our bathroom of one of our properties. So that is a bit heartwarming.
It's unique.
That's cute, right? But you don't always have to charge for extra guests. They might just pop up. So
That is one of the most unique stories I've heard. I will never forget that one for sure. So let me ask you this. Are there any new projects or ventures you're excited about in the short term or hospitality space?
yeah, absolutely. Look, I personally have put together a mastermind community, and what it is, it's a global platform to connect people that are involved in the short-term rental industry. It's lovely to see everybody occasionally at conferences, but I think that we need that extra support. We need to be in contact with each other, and we should share our information. If somebody has a cleaner's checklist, don't keep it to yourself. Don't gatekeep. Share it with others. So I've got it's called Million Dollar Host Mastermind Community. There's 140 people in there at the moment, all worldwide. But I'm really excited to see that grow in 2025. And 2 months free access at the moment. So if anyone wants to get in touch and find out about that, we share all of our documents, all of our contracts, our owners' agreements. But we also had guest speakers coming in and we take action together. We have accountability calls once a week. So I'm really excited to see that community grow, but also I love to see collaboration and I love to see other hosts working together, not in competition, but collaborating together and being able to just grow together, help each other out, and see this industry succeed as one. So it's watch this space.
I think that 2025 is going to be a big year for us. I really do. I think the space is going to do quite well. I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised about 2025. And I hope it grows. I really hope that the industry grows. I'm looking forward to having someone on to talk to me about statistical analysis of what they see. It's about that time. So we usually have a lot of reservations for the summer season, if you're seasonal, that come in November through December. So hopefully in January, we'll get a real good update on statistically what's going to be happening.
Oh, it's really exciting. I think there's been a bit of an oversupply with properties in the markets this year. I think that will correct itself for 2025. So hang in there, folks. If you're listening to this podcast, all credit to you because you're looking to improve or you're looking to learn, you're looking to educate yourself. So that tells me that you will have the staying power to perhaps hang in there, hold on, because I think 2025 is going to be a very pleasant experience for professional property managers. And you obviously have very good taste if you're listening to Lynell's podcast.
Oh, Jill, you're so sweet. Listen, how can people get in touch with you? If they want an ebook or they just want to ask you for advice, how do they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. And I offer 15-minute free Zooms. So if you want to get on and talk about your own personal experience of what you're doing in the short-term rental industry, I love that. I just love feeding off and finding out what people are doing. So get in touch with me. My website is milliondollarhost.com.au, AU for Australia at the end. But that's my website. But you'll find me on all the social medias. So Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, TikTok as well. You'll see me doing some crazy dances. No, you won't. I'm not even cooking.
We're going to go look.
But I do there's a bit of comedy. There's a little bit of fun stuff on there. I do the Hectic Host Helpline as a comedy routine on TikTok. But you'll find, if you look up Million Dollar Host or Julie George, folks, you'll find me. Send me a message. I'm human. I'm responsive. I would love to meet with people. If you mention that you listen to this podcast, you're going to get a free book. Million Dollar Host ebook.
I'm going to do that. I'm looking forward to it too. I love ebooks. I have to tell you, they're one of my favorites. And Julie, thank you for being with me. You're just so open and you're so caring about what you do, and you love you love sharing with people. So guys, take advantage of it. Please contact her. And thanks again for being with me, Julie. I will never forget your story, and I'm really grateful for you being here with me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This episode of How We Grow was brought to you by Lynbrook Group. To find out more about how Lynbrook Group can help to grow your vacation rental business, visit lynbrookgroup.com. Make sure to search for How We Grow in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team here at Inhabit, thanks for listening.